Yes, I am Nana Kher, the caretaker of Avatar Meher Baba's Samadhi. Though I am supposed to be the caretaker of the Samadhi, it is Baba who is taking care of me, and I am entirely under his care. Once, when I was at Guru Prasad, Baba told me, when I clap, you have to smile. And when I clap again, second time, then you have to weep. And if you do it properly, it will be quite all right. Otherwise, I will send you back to your place, Nagpur. So he clapped. First time I clap, you smile. Second time I will clap again, and then you weep. So he clapped, and I smiled very proudly. Then instantly, next moment, he clapped again. Then, oh, Baba smiled very well. He said, all right. Then, when I was there at Guru Prasad, I had to do the watch duty. And I was working with Aloba. So, many times it happened that people who would come from long distances, they would request us to allow us to have Baba's darshan. But Baba had given us instructions that because of his seclusion, he didn't want anyone to meet him. And so we had to tell them that it is not possible for them to meet Baba because Baba is in strict seclusion and he is not meeting anyone. But they would say, we have come from a very long distance and you just tell our name and Baba will certainly call us. But then we told them, no, it is not even possible even to tell your name to Baba because Baba had told us, I don't want to hear anything about anyone. Let it be anyone from any place. So we had to request them, it is not possible, so please leave. So after much reluctance, they would somehow leave the premises. But sometimes some people who were more stubborn, they would not listen to what we told them, and with all our requests and all that, they would still insist on seeing Baba. And then they would say, at least we want to sit here for half an hour. But the instructions were that they could not even sit for even half an hour. So we told them, it is not possible for you to stay here because Baba doesn't want anyone to remain in that area. As soon as you are told, you please leave the premises of Guru Prasad. But they would still sit and say, no, we want just to sit here. If you don't allow us to meet Baba, you don't tell our name to Baba, then we will at least sit here for half an hour. And then myself and Aloba, we both, after telling them everything and trying our best to leave the premises, if the person insisted on staying there, then we had actually to drag him out of the compound, and that sometimes this unpleasant task we had to do this. And sometimes when the person had left, then, and he is about to leave the main gate, suddenly Baba would ask, who has come? And then he would say, you call that person immediately, but the person has already left the compound. So we had to run and, if possible, to get hold of him and bring him to Baba. Or if we have taken the telephone number of the person, then Baba would say, call him immediately, I want to meet him. I am Nana Kher, the caretaker of the Avatar Meher Baba's Samadhi. I am just standing in front of the main gate, the main door of the Samadhi. When I was with Baba at Guru Prasad for 3 months, what I noticed was during my stay with Baba, intimate stay with Baba, you see, whenever Baba would call me and I would be with him, that he was constantly suffering inwardly, and which I could feel constantly. And the suffering was continuous. There was no break in that suffering. So sometimes I would say to Baba, Baba, this is the old way of, you see, taking on the burden of the whole world, and because of that you are suffering continuously. Why not have a modern way and eliminate this factor of suffering? Baba would broadly smile. He says there is no other way but to suffer. And what cannot be cured has to be endured. It is like that.
What cannot be cured
Has to be endured. And so that is the only way in which I can relieve humanity. And so I experienced that continuous non-stop suffering of Baba, day and night. But one thing I noticed, you see, whenever Baba would allow anyone to, or permit anyone, even when he was in seclusion, sometimes he would permit someone to have his darshan for a short while. And at that time, we would see a sudden change in Baba's mood and in his expression. His suffering that we were sensing, that we were feeling, you see, all of a sudden, everything will vanish. And he was all bliss and radiant like anything. And when the visitor was there, for 1 second or 1 minute, Baba was all happiness, all bliss. All of a sudden change, you see. As soon as the person who came and who met Baba, you see, for a short while, it may be from the door, or Baba would permit him to enter the room for a short while and then he would go away. As soon as the person left the room, then we would see Baba again in the same suffering state. That was instantaneous. This thing we had noticed many times, you see, that it was at his command, you see. He would be in bliss, in happiness, and next moment he was having the same suffering which he had for all the time, you see. And that was continuous. And when we used to sit near him, you see, for playing the game, Lares, or we were very close to him, at that time we were always feeling and sensing that continuous suffering. But he said, there is no other way. I have to undergo this suffering. That is the only way. That is the very purpose for which I come as avatar.
How did Baba look when he was suffering? I mean, was there any physical change?
No, we could sense, you see, that he was internally suffering continuously. Like, you see, face, of course, very much pulled down, and then as if there is too much burden on him. That is what we could sense, you see, outwardly. And when he was doing that special work during the last final seclusion, you see, in 68, you see, at that time, when he would come immediately after finishing the work in his room, you see, that was for half an hour, 1 hour, or 1.5 hours sometimes, he would tell us, you see, that when I am doing the work in my room, you see, there is absolutely no suffering for me. It is very smooth, the working that I do. But as soon as the work is over and then I come to this room among you, then I have the whole burden you see on my head. It is like this. When you suddenly lift a great weight from your head, then you feel great, suddenly a great weight that is put on your head is lifted. A Himalaya, you see, that is put on your head and then it is lifted. Then what would be the reaction? It is like that, you see. But when I am doing the work, when I am in my room doing the special work, at that time I have no burden and it is very smooth and I do it without any burden on me. But as soon as the work is over, then the whole burden is there and then it remains for hours together. And the example he gave, it is like suddenly lifting Himalaya, you see, from your head, you see. If the Himalaya is put and then it is suddenly lifted, it is like that, you see. The reaction is like that. So that was during the last final seclusion. And at that time then he said, you see, the work that I am doing at this time, you see, in my seclusion, burden on me. But as soon as the work is over, then the whole burden is there and then it remains for hours together. And the example he gave, it is like suddenly lifting Himalaya, you see, from your head, you see. If the Himalaya is put and then it is suddenly lifted, it is like that, you see. The reaction is like that. So that was during the last final seclusion. And at that time then he said, you see, the work that I am doing at this time, you see, then it is something which no previous avatar has done. The work that I am doing this time is something very unique and no previous avatar has done in any of the past incarnations, you see. The work that I am doing during this seclusion, the final seclusion that Baba was in 1968, when no one was allowed in Guru Prasad compound, not even the intimate Mandali and those intimate ones who were at Pune, you see, who were usually allowed to visit Baba. They were also not allowed during the 3 months in 68. And we were also not allowed to go out of the compound of Guru Prasad, you see, during that period. And at that time, when he was doing that special work, I was kept on watch duty outside Baba's room about 200 yards away from the room. And then when Baba wanted something, water, or he had to attend to a call of nature, then he would clap his hands. And then that was the signal for me to go inside. And then I had to go with RH. So I would call RH immediately, and then we both together went in Baba's room for whatever he wanted, either a glass of water or he had to attend to a call of nature. And at that time, because all the doors were closed, you see, when he was sitting in seclusion, you see, he was completely drenched with perspiration. Whenever we went, we found, you see, he was completely drenched with perspiration. And then when the whole work was over, his seclusion work was over, then his whole body was wiped with handkerchief and the perspiration was removed, you see. And then he would walk from there to the Mandali's room in Guru Prasad. Sometimes allowed to have big darshans, public darshans or darshan of his lovers, you see, on certain occasions. At that time, usually we noticed that before the darshan program started, say a week before that, suddenly Baba's health would deteriorate and he would be seriously sick and with no sleep and so many complaints. And we felt that it would be best that the darshan program that Baba had fixed be cancelled. And so Monday would request Baba to cancel the program. Baba would say, no, I have fixed it and it will take place at the proper time, at the time appointed by me. And so it went on till the last till the actual day of darshan, his condition will deteriorate day by day, and everyone would worry how Baba would be able to give darshan on the fixed day and at the appointed time. But when actually the day came and Baba started giving darshan, we would see that Baba was completely all right. The whole crisis would pass away, and he would give the darshan in all glory, in bliss, and there would be no trace of any suffering on Baba's face or in his mood. So this thing was witnessed many times. Before the darshan, there would be a crisis, and Baba would go through the crisis intensely, and he would be very unwell. But just on the day when the darshan started, on that day, Baba will be completely all right, and he will give the darshan with the usual, radiance and glory, and all those who came, they saw Baba in bliss, in happiness, and he would greet everyone with infinite love and joy. And all were happy to meet Baba. So all those who came on those occasions, they saw him, they felt him as God in bliss, God in happiness. In 1955 and 1958, when Baba gave Sahwas to the Indians who came from different parts of India, in 1955 for 1 month and in 58 for 2 weeks. At that time, there were different groups, language groups, according to which people were called. And after, in the course of the Sahwas, one day Baba would bring all the Sahwasis, with him, just to show this resting place where I am sitting now, and sitting at his feet. So Baba would lead us all to Upper Meherabad, and then Baba would say that this is my resting place, and when I drop the body, then my body will be brought here, and then I will be resting. So he would come, lead the whole group, inside. He would himself come, come inside, and then ask one by one to all of us to enter the Samadhi. 2 weeks. At that time, there were different groups, language groups, according to which people were called. And after, in the course of the Sahwas, one day Baba would bring all the Sahwasis, with him, just to show this resting place where I am sitting now, and sitting at his feet. So Baba would lead us all to Upper Meherabad, and then Baba would say that this is my resting place, and when I drop the body, then my body will be brought here, and then I will be resting. So he would come, lead the whole group, inside. He would himself come, come inside, and then ask one by one to all of us to enter the Samadhi and have darshan, of the crypt. At that time it was only crypt, and Baba would sit on one window, and then he would tell us that this is the place where I would be resting, when I drop the body, and people will come from all over the world. In 58 he said, this will be a world center of world pilgrimage. 70 years from now, it will be a center of world pilgrimage, when people from all over the world will throng and come for my darshan. 55, when we came with Baba to this Samadhi, where Baba said, I am going to place my body when I drop the body. And so you all come one by one, enter the Samadhi, move around the crypt, bow down to the crypt. And then he said, you all have to make one vow today, when you are in my Samadhi, that you will make everyone happy, even at the cost of your own happiness. That vow you have to make here, to make others happy even at the cost of your own happiness. Even if you have to suffer, try to make others happy. That was the vow each one had to take when he entered the Samadhi and he was within the Samadhi. Try to make everyone happy even at the cost of your own happiness.